Hi there, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Advancepro University. Today, we are going to be taking a look at Excel. We're going to be talking about Excel skills that may help you as you work with Advancepro, from basic to advanced. Now, these skills are broadly applicable right through Excel, and Google Sheets often has equivalent functions. Some of them have slight differences. But these are going to give you the tools for a lot of complex operations within Advancepro. Things like building complicated SKUs or getting your image file path built in Excel in a way that we can import really effectively. So let's jump over to Excel. I've got an Excel spreadsheet ready to go. Now, we've got our SKU and our UPC and some product names and some other details that we've exported from Advancepro. By the way, if you're looking to learn how to get these kinds of details from Advancepro, we'll just pop over to Advancepro. On a lot of the screens in Advancepro, there's a little Excel button in the right-hand corner, and this way you can really easily just push that directly to Excel. Excel will open up directly for you with the information that you see on any of these sheets that are grids and lists of items. So lists of orders, lists of products, lists of customers. You can export directly. And you can also set the columns for these sheets just by clicking the gear button that usually appears in the upper left. So you can set any of these columns and then export exactly what you see down by hitting the Excel button. Now, it will export only the items on the current page. So if you need to have more items on that page, you can see I've got a little under 60 total records. So we can just go ahead and change our number of results per page and hit the search button to refresh. Just a couple ways we can get that Excel file out. We also have more advanced Excel exporting capabilities. Take a look at our previous episode on Excel export and import. Okay, we do also have our full APTU history and archives available on our YouTube channel as well as on advanceprotech.com. And at the end of this presentation, we will be taking any questions put into the live chat. So if you do have a question, go ahead and throw that into the live chat available just to the right of the video if you're watching on youtube.com live. And if you're watching live on advanceprotech.com, the chat is just below the video. Okay, so we're going to jump back over to Excel. We've got our Excel file all loaded up. Now, at this point, we've got some SKUs, we've got some UPC codes that are kind of partially filled out, we've got some products. And what I want to walk you through today, just kind of 5 basic topics with respect to Excel. We're going to be talking about the basic math and just how to do basic math if you're brand new to formulas in Excel. We're going to talk a little bit about manipulating text strings. So for example, the name here, we're going to be talking about how we can work with those and combine them and manipulate them. We're going to be talking about referencing across different sheets. So we have sheet 1 and sheet 2, and we can actually make a reference in sheet 1 to something in sheet 2. So we'll be touching on that. And then we're going to get into a more advanced topic. We're going to be getting into VLOOKUP, which is if we have a piece of information sitting in one area and we want to reference another piece of information, either sitting somewhere else on the same sheet or maybe on a different sheet, we're going to be talking about how to kind of look up using a piece of information we do know, go down a sheet and find information that we don't know. And then finally, we're going to be talking about how to format and adjust spreadsheets to make them more compatible with Advancepro so that you can bring them right back in without any trouble. That's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to dive right in, just starting off with basic math. So if you're brand new to working with Excel or Google Sheets, and let's say we want to go ahead and set some adjustments to price, first I'm just going to add a new column. So we're going to call this new price, new selling. And I'm going to go ahead and just start writing my formula. I'm going to start with a single cost, and we're going to start to work with some basic math. So if I hit the equals button, that lets Excel or Google Sheets know that we're going to be dealing with a formula. And I'm going to say we're going to take another cell. So we're going to reference another cell. We're going to reference H2, which is my existing selling price. H2, and then we can use a number of operations just to make it work like a calculator. So we can use a star, that means multiply. In this case, we'd be multiplying by 0, so I'm going to use add 1. Okay, so H2 plus 1, we're going to get 1. H2 plus 150, we're going to get 150. And so if we actually go and set our price to 150, we can start to do multiplications, okay? So if we get into multiplication, we'd say go ahead and multiply that by 4, and we can get our new price. And then the nice thing about formulas is they'll adjust. So we can cut and paste this down an entire column, and it'll go and kind of change our reference. It says, okay, we were looking at H2, now we want to look at H3, H4, H5, all the way down the list. And so what we can very easily do is cut a single item and then highlight all of the fields or an entire column that we want that to apply to and paste it in once, okay? So here I can go ahead and just hit the paste button. You can hit Control V, or if you're on a Mac, you can hit Option V, and that's going to perform a paste, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and paste right in there, and you can see it kind of does all that math for us. This gets really, really handy for adjusting pricing. Now this same idea can be applied through all of the other ideas that we're going to be dealing with today, where you can make a formula once and apply it all the way down the rows. Now, if you want to reference a static cell, say you have a particular rate that you want to manipulate, and you don't want it to change the reference. So let's say over here we have a rate, and we want it to stay. So we're working in L10, and we'll say we're going to multiply by 4. So then over here, we can say by L10. And you can see now we're referencing this kind of rate that we can set over here. But if we cut this formula and move down, well, again, it's going to go and look at, now it's looking at H3, which is what we want, but L11, which is not where our information is. This is a really powerful technique. What we can do to just avoid that is in our original formula that's referencing L10, we can put a $sign next to the number, the row number, or the column letter that we want to remain static. And that's one way that we can have the entire thing stay put. So in this case, I can take my formula, go ahead and back out of that accidental selection of G4. And I'll go ahead and hit enter so we get our math right. And then I can copy and paste that down. And this way the math is going to stay. We're always going to be referencing that L10 field. So that's just one way that we can keep our references consistent when we want to start moving around. Because Excel, by default, is going to try and adjust row by row as we go down. So that just allows us to keep things static, okay? So that's just a little bit about basic math and referencing other fields. So next, what we're going to talk about is working with strings, and there's a number of ways we can work with text strings. So I'm going to introduce you to a couple of really handy tools. So here we have our product name, it's half-inch pipe, but we maybe want to change our product names to make them all capital letters. So this is a really easy formula called upper. So this just takes everything in lowercase and it makes sure it's uppercase. Another really handy one that we'll get into in just a moment is left and right, and that's going to take the characters on the left end of the string or the right end of the string of text and insert them. So let's actually do that. Over here we've got an image path, and I'm going to build this up down below. So what we've got here is first we want the left few characters from the skew. So that's over here in A2. Something I'm going to do just to declutter things is we're going to just hide some of these columns. I'm just going to highlight some columns, and we are going to just hide them. Right click and go to hide. So now we're down to just the areas that we care about. So we've got the skew over here on the left hand side in A3, and we're going to build up an image path. Now, we're not going to use the whole skew, although we certainly could. We could say equals A3, and that's just going to make it be the skew. But what we want to do is we just want the left or the right part of it. So what we're going to say is we are going to say left, left, all in capitals, and that way Excel realizes that it's working with formula. And then we're going to do a bracket. And then here it's even telling us, here's what you need to tell us. Okay, the text that we're going to be taking, that's going to be A 3, and then the number of characters that we want to take off of the left-hand side. So if we say 3 characters, that's going to give us the D and the hyphen, and it looks like we have a space in the front. So we're actually going to say 4. So we've got space D hyphen C is what's happening in that. Okay, so that's a really, really handy thing that we can do with a string of text, is we can just slice off the right or the left-hand side. If we go back in and we change that from left to right, we're going to get the exact opposite idea. So if we do right, now we're going to just get that 1, 2, 3, 4, those last characters of the string. So for the first few characters, you go left. For the last few characters, you go right. So that's just a little bit about how we can start manipulating these strings of text as opposed to doing math like we just were. So next, the next thing that we can do here is if we back out, we've talked about left and right, but what we can do is we can start to glue bits of text together. So you can see right now we're building up a file name, and eventually we're going to build a whole image path here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to say concatenate. That essentially says you can glue bits of text together. So we're going to go ahead and choose concatenate. And it starts to tell us, hey, tell us what your first piece of text is. Tell us what your second piece of text is. So our first piece of text is going to be a reference to a cell. It's going to be A3. Okay. Next, we're actually going to supply a static piece of text, and we could put this in a cell, but I'm just going to write it out. So I'm going to put in quotation marks. That means we're going to begin a piece of text, and you'll want to use double quotes here typically. And we're going to come in and say .jpg, JPEGs. So that's just an image format that's really common. You might be using bitmaps, BMP, or some other image format. Today we're going to use a JPG because those are most common for product photos. And we're going to close our brackets. So now we've got our skew.jpg. And one of the last things we can do here is we can start to nest formulas. So these brackets tell us what's going to be, in what order should we do this. So we could actually say inside of this, we're going to say left, A3, and we're going to kind of combine. So we're going to nest our left formula inside of our concatenate formula. So we're going to say left 4 characters. So we're going to take the 4 characters off of the left side, off of the front of our text string in A3, and we're going to use those, and we're going to put them with .jpg, and we're going to get a concatenated file name. So there we can go, and we get that space d-c.jpg, or we can do the right side. So now we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4.jpg. And if we wanted, we could go ahead and put something in the middle here as well, or on one side or another. So we can concatenate as many strings together as we want. So we could say that our files live in the C drive documents folder. So this is one really easy way where we can end up with C drive documents and then 1234.jpg. So this way we get our full path for our image, and that way we can very easily go ahead and convert this into text, which I'll show you in a moment, and bring that final path of where our images are into Advancepro. So that covers just a little bit about image paths and how we can start to manipulate strings. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is how can we reference this information over here? Now, we certainly could just highlight everything and cut and paste it into our other sheet. And that since this happens to be sorted in the same way, we certainly could do that. But what I really want to show here is coming over here to the Crosssheet example. What we can actually do is we can reference information over on that other sheet. So the nice thing is you can have reports that you export from all different places. You put them on different sheets. And just in the same way you would nest any 2 formulas together, you can nest references to other sheets. So you can see here all I've done is I've taken the name of the sheet, it's sheet 2. I've done an exclamation mark, and then I've got the cell in sheet 2 that we're referencing. It's A5. So if I just switch this back, there we go. And you can see it's AWA51. If we go over to sheet 2 and we look in A5, AWA51. And again, as we go down the rows, if I cut and paste this, this is actually going to go to the next row. And okay, the next one is B soda. So we take a look, and sure enough, we're going to have B soda. So again, it's going to go row by row, and we can use our dollar signs from earlier to lock those down if we need to. And we could also use one of these cross-sheet references in any of the other formulas that we've gone through today. So we could use a cross-sheet reference to refer to a cell or a value that's in our concatenate formula, or in what we're about to get into, which is our VLOOKUP capabilities. So keep in mind, you can mix and match all of the techniques I'm showing you to really wrangle any data across anything in Excel into a format that you want it in, and then you can bring it into Advancepro, or you can build reports out of it. Okay. Next, we're going to come to our VLOOKUP example. So VLOOKUP is a really powerful tool. It's similar to a Google search or a phone book, if you're old enough to remember phone books. So the idea here is we have one piece of information that we know. In this case, it's the SKU. So we're looking at field A2. And we're saying, okay, with this one piece of information that we know, let's go and reference some information that we don't know. So we're saying, you know what, we're taking this piece of information that we know, and we're looking through a range of values, and this could be maybe our other sheet. We could look through a range of values. We go and define a table, so we're actually looking at from A2 to B50 as an example. So we would say, okay, it's somewhere in this square or rectangle that we've defined. So that's what this, we come back in, if we come back here, let me just, here we go. We see we're referencing A2 to D40 on this sheet. So we know it's in this rectangle. We've hidden D, but it's in one of these columns. And then we say, okay, find the row. It's a vertical lookup, so it's finding a row where we match a value for A2. And in this case, it happens to be A2. But we could be starting off, let's actually change this. So we're referencing something in K5, okay? So we're going to say, okay, find the SKU that I type into K5. Go and look at this table. Find a match. So we'll say that, for example. So it's found a match. And at this point, it's going to go and say, now go count your columns. So in this case, we're going to say count 1, 2, 3. Okay? Find what's in the third column in this table. Okay? And the piece of information that you're referencing should always be the first column. So then the second column is the UPC, and then the third column is the product name. Find what's in the third column and tell me what that is. Okay, so in this case, it brings back half-inch pipe. Or if I were to take B soda and put it into our K5 search area and hit enter, it goes and it's going to find whatever the result might be. Okay, so this is one way that we can very easily go ahead and match from one column to the next, particularly if we have a bunch of data across different sheets or in different places around our sheet. Okay, so that's VLOOKUP. It's a very, very powerful tool. It can be complicated to use at times, but it is a really, really powerful way to cross-reference data and to pull data together from all kinds of different places. Okay. So, having covered our main goals to today, talking about basic math and string manipulation, text string manipulation, talking about cross-referencing across sheets and VLOOKUP, the last topic we're going to touch on is formatting for Advancepro. So once we've got a sheet and it's got all these formulas in it, what do we do to make it safe to bring back into Advancepro without any errors. So we've got a couple things just to note here. The first thing that you'll want to do is if you have any spaces in your very top row, your header row, you'll want to go ahead and just take those spaces away. That's the first and most important thing to do. Now, there's a couple other things I want to talk about. Let's just highlight the entire sheet by hitting Control A, or if you're on a Mac, that's Option A. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to hit the Clear button. And we're actually going to clear all formats. It's going to be the first one. So this is just in case we have something in scientific notation or any other kind of strange format that Excel might impose on us. If we have bold or highlights, it just takes that information out so that formatting information doesn't clutter up what Advancepro is trying to read. Okay, so we're going to clear formats. Next, we have these formulas, and this is the actual text in that field that Advancepro might try to read. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that formula, Control C or Option C, and instead we're going to go to a field where we want to take that, and we're going to say, okay, we are going to paste special. We're going to, we'll actually come up here to the paste menu, and you'll see there's this paste special options. And if you've cut a currently existing formula in a cell, a reference to a cell, and you go ahead and go to paste, you're going to see paste values. And this will give you a text value for what's in that field. So you can highlight the whole spreadsheet, cut the whole spreadsheet, and then paste values. And so here we can go from having this formula to having the results of that formula. So at this point, just to demonstrate that, we're going to copy everything, and we'll Control C or Option C to cut everything, or you can right click and accept the cut option, or hit the cut option here in the upper left. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut or copy, and then we can paste values if we have any formulas there. So that's one way that we can do that. So we're going to copy the whole thing and paste values. That takes all those formulas away from us at this point. So the last thing that we can do is we can choose to save this in XLS or the newer XLSX format. Tricky to pronounce, but that is the two formats that are best for importing into Advancepro. We do have a lot of other export options like CSV, but if you're working with Advancepro directly, this is an Excel document that we would import. So you have two options for Excel files, XLS or XLSX, and different imports are going to work different ways, but generally we recommend importing from an XLS file as opposed to an XLSX file. And the reasoning for that is because Microsoft does a lot of different compression tricks in an XLSX file that just makes the data sometimes a bit more complicated to work with. So we often recommend XLS for the simplicity of it. Yeah. Now, if you do have any questions, we are about to wrap up, so feel free to put them into live chat, and we'll be responding in just a moment. Thank you all for watching. This is going to kind of conclude our tour of some basic Excel operations. Like I said, if there's any questions, just let us know. Have a great afternoon.